I love year-end roundups. I'm so excited to start on them. It's like we're all tired at the end of the year, and there's nothing better than just talking about everything that we already worked so hard to like concentrate on all the details of and just lump them into categories. This is how I usually kick off this time of the season, and it is with a video that was originally started in concept years ago by our queen, Miss Jackie Aina, and she abandoned the concept at one point and sort of handed it off to whoever wanted to take it on, and it is like trends that need to die in 2025, and she would do Girlfriend is so much funnier than me. She would do impressions like the whole time pretending to be serious, but like, you know, just layering on all the highlighter and everything else, just like basically roasting all of the trends. I'm taking kind of a different twist on it, and I ask y'all, and then we chat about them. So I went on my Instagram and I asked y'all what trends need to die in 2025, and y'all delivered. I'm always so, like, I'm not surprised, but like still I'm impressed by your answers because y'all are just so smart and thoughtful, and I love also knowing what grinds your gears. So we're going to talk all about your submissions, and then I might poke in a few of my own. But first, I wanted to share today's sponsor with y'all. So it is the last time this year that I'm gonna be talking about my friends over at Ana Luisa. I am here to remind y'all that they are doing some amazing discounts on site for the holidays and even for like your New Year's and whatnot. So it's like gifting, fantastic. Gifting to yourself, fantastic. We're talking about gifts that are really impressive and also affordable. Yes, they do solid gold, they do diamonds, they do silver, and they do gold plating. And so the gold plating starts at $39, and there are discounts on site to even reduce that further. And they are coming out with new styles all the time. So I wanted to share some styles with y'all today. Some are old, some are new. I have been wearing Ana Luisa every day for years. So most of this is stuff I've had for a while, but new. They have this in the gold plating as well as the solid gold. So it's like depending on kind of what your budget is, this is the gold plating version, but they are these beautiful charm necklaces. I fell in love with this instantly when I saw it on site because it's just kind of so uncommon looking. I really, really like it. So it's like usually you have a pendant hanging on a necklace, but to have this selection, like these are 3 different little beads, it's like a really easy way to ease into something that makes me a little bit uncomfortable, which is metal mixing. As someone who, when I found out my undertones and that gold looked great on me, I was like, oh, I eschewed silver for so long, and I was like, don't let me get caught in silver. And now I'm like, I like the metal mixing thing, but I like pieces that mix them together instead of wearing 2 pieces that are different metal colors. That's just me. But yeah, so it's really nice. You've got like the silver and the gold, and then this really cute little pave in the middle. And I love how it layers over my like herringbone one. Really, really nice. And then, okay, so I always talk about how Ana Luisa has the best hoops. These are ones that I've had for a while. I have them in several sizes. I highly recommend checking out their hoop selection. But in my second holes, we went with the metal mixing again. So this is really cool. It's like a double hoop as part of like the part that goes in your ear, right? And then hanging off of it is another double hoop, like these 2 little rings, and they're both silver, gold, silver, gold. And I just think that it's like, again, a really fun way to get into mixing metals, and I think that they are just adorable. And finally, it is just not every day that I find a thumb ring that just sends me, but this thing is so gorgeous. It's kind of like the Evan ring that they used to have, but this one is called the Hudson. Memory served, it's called the Hudson ring, and it's resizable obviously because it's just kind of like one piece that splits right here. And this is, I don't know, this is really personal, but a thumb ring is a really good little fidget for me to keep me from pulling at my cuticles. It's something that fixates me so that I'm not like doing other, maybe less productive things. And I also just love the way that a thumb ring looks. You're looking at your hands all day. And I always want to be one of those like, you know, women who as I age, I just get more and more and more jewelry on my hands, and like a thumb ring makes you feel like you're really on your way there to being like that cool, eccentric old lady. So can you tell I imbue my jewelry with a lot of like emotions? So needless to say, it's one of my favorite things in the world to like get up and just lavish myself with gold jewelry, and Ana Luisa makes that accessible. It makes it really easy for you to collect their pieces because they are priced so well. And the reason that they're priced so well is because for their gold plating, they're only using recycled gold, so they kind of pass that savings along to you. So I highly recommend checking out Ana Luisa using my link down below. You can shop for the holidays as gifting, you can shop for yourself as we go into the new year. It just feels good to adorn ourselves, and thank you as always to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this portion of today's video. So let's go ahead and dive into y'all's incredible responses to the trends that need to die in 2025. And I didn't even say beauty trends this time. I was like, just trends. And y'all delivered. Y'all delivered. And a lot of you had the same ideas, which I love. Nose stud havers. Do you ever like get towel fibers caught around your nose ring and you're like, what's tickling me? It's like microscopic. I'm a little hype right now. I just went to yoga and then I took a shower and then I had a smoothie and I'm just like invigorated. It either works one way where I'm just like toast, or it works the other direction where I'm just like, yeah, let's run on fumes. Like that's where I'm at right now. So see how long that lasts. The first one that was submitted, the first trend that needs to die in 2025, I could not agree more. They said heroin chic revival. Y'all know that I did a video recently, and if you don't, you should check it out. You do not want an ED. That's basically what it was called. And I jumped through a lot of language hoops in order to not get demonetized. And I'm really glad that I did because it seems to have reached a pretty broad audience and people seem to really appreciate how candid the conversation was. I got some incredibly thought-provoking comments in that video. And it is a conversation that I think needs to continue because we have to, as people who have already lived through this really damaging time period of having so many unfair and unrealistic standards put on our bodies, now it's being applied to the next generation and they don't have the wisdom, they don't have the experience of knowing that this is preying upon them. It's preying upon their insecurities and giving them kind of a false sense of control or a false sense of superiority over one another in the competition that is being a young adult. And while I would love to have it stop being portrayed as the ideal in our media, the fact is, as soon as there is a magic pill, as it were, to get skinny, people are going to jump on it. People who can afford it, people who have access to it are going to jump on it. And often to their detriment or to like mysterious future consequences. This is not something that is commonly understood yet. We don't really know what these things do to us. And I think that normalizing being normal, normalizing being cautious, normalizing accepting ourselves as we are and accepting our peers as we are is what we as like adults now and like, you know, parent age people should be translating down to the generations below us, because we do have this experience, we do have the trauma and the recovery to go with it. And so it's not going to stop being perpetuated in the media. It's kind of on us to keep the conversation going that's just like, hi, over here in reality off the internet, like this kind of thing is only going to make you feel worse. There is no winning an ED, let's be clear. Someone really got me on this one. I love this. It says ASMR content, all of it, tapping of the nails on products, just stop. It is really interesting how there's this assumption among a lot of creators that I watch that like every once in a while you should inject a little bit of ASMR into your video because it like satisfies some people. Even if it does satisfy some people, it really bothers other people. Me being those people, it's me, I'm those people. It's not so much the tapping, but I totally understand anybody who has misophonia or any kind of like auditory sensitivity. While there are people who might get stimulated by an ASMR moment in a video, let them go find that content on their own. Can we stop like putting it randomly in the middle of videos? I do not need you this close to your microphone whispering. Makes me want to crawl out of my skin. The tapping is definitely bothering some people. And do we not have enough unnerving, surprising content on the internet? I mean, did y'all watch Drew Gooden's video on online gambling? Like, who else was ready for something funny and did not find something funny on the other side of that video? Wow, we have enough of those kinds of things sort of like giving us not what we expected on the internet. Can we stop making people intentionally uncomfortable by making things ASMR, okay? I have major misophonia, like major rage misophonia, and it is like my #1 pet peeve when I have to hear somebody's like spit noises this close to the microphone. An accident is one thing. Talking, sure, whatever, it happens. We're humans. I have learned to kind of raise my threshold of what drives me crazy. But the fact that ASMR is like intentionally that, it makes me want to kick a wall. It's so rage inducing. So I'm right here with you. The people who are looking for ASMR can go look for that content. Stop just randomly putting it in other content, please. The next one just says working. I think we should all try and figure out what part of us needs to be heard and what gift of ours needs to be shared in order for work not to feel like work. Like, my work doesn't feel like work. I feel like I'm just kind of always creating, which is what I want to be doing anyway. And that's not me being lucky. That's me seeking out decisions that kind of like honor that part of me over time and not really always knowing if it was the right thing to do, but always trying to keep my eye on the ball, on the North Star, as it were, of what makes me feel good, like what makes me feel satisfied, because I had been in so many jobs that I thought I was going to be able to go on autopilot with, and some people can, I cannot. I have Aries in whatever house it is that makes it so that like you are your product. Like, that's my sun sign, but it's in whatever house where it's like, it's your career product. Like, you need to go be you as your career. And I think whether you are like an astrology nerd or plan to be one or not, it can be cool to go read about your chart and like what's in that house for you and see like what you're kind of supposed to go after, what you would find satisfying to do for work, because I truly feel like I've hacked the system. I don't want to speak ill of other creators. I don't, but I have heard in passing so many times other creators say like, this is the hardest job I've ever done.
I literally just finished work and it's 5:19. Try being an influencer for a day. Try it. Because the people who say it's easy are so far out of their minds. Try it for a day.
This job is so easy. It's hard to get here, okay? That's what's hard. It's hard to get to a place where it's your job and where you have a groove and you trust yourself and you trust your creative energy and your ideas, and you can like trust that you can be yourself on camera. It takes years. It takes years and years and years. I have put now 7 years into this, you know? Pretty much on the nose. And it really, really takes a long time before it can become your job and become something that you really enjoy. And it really depends on your willingness or unwillingness to kind of like trade in sometimes your happiness for other things that might feel like, you know, a better long-term gain for you. And so people make different decisions about different things, but I have been lucky enough and also made the decisions to construct my reality in a way that like I never feel like my job is hard. So I encourage anyone to just start asking yourself questions about like what it is that would actually make it feel like work wasn't work for you. And don't let those little voices in your head that are like, yeah, but everybody else can do that. If the whole world did that, we wouldn't have any engineers, we wouldn't have any plumbers, we wouldn't have... Quiet those voices for a second, just live in a vacuum and ask yourself the questions. What would my reality look like if I were to wake up every day and do something that I genuinely wanted to do for money in a capitalist society? Like, do I want to travel the world? Most of the time, yes. But like, also, I truly need to share my thoughts. I need to shout into the void. I need to build community. I very much get a lot out of this job. It's not just like, wow, this is an easy way to make money. Like, I get a lot out of this job. It's very fulfilling. If I'm ever depressed, and I'll talk about it on camera, sometimes people will comment like, oh, you know, take a break. You don't need to be here. Like, we will be here when you get back. And I'm like, sometimes that's true. Sometimes I just am burnt out and I need rest. But a lot of times it is worth pushing myself to get on camera, because the act of producing a video and getting the conversation that comes back to me from it is so helpful and healing for me. Like, it's very, very positive for me. So I'm really grateful for my job. I do think this is the easiest job in the world for me, for my personality type. And I don't think that I'm special. I think that everybody can find that for themselves. Okay, Okay, so this one a lot of people said in different ways, so I'm going to kind of group them together. Someone said everything being called an era. Another person said micro trends. Micro trends, just all of them, F fast fashion. So like talking about fast fashion being encouraged in beauty and, you know, clothing and everything. Trends, which I think there's a difference between a trend and micro trend. Everything being a trend for a week. Strawberry this, mocha that, etc. Food named nail trends. I don't want donut nails, Ashley. I want lady nails. I love y'all so much. Oh, here, and infantilizing and or dumbing down tutorials by calling them X, fruit or pastry, girl makeup. So a lot of you felt this way. And I have to agree, the micro trend of it all, and I mean, I don't think I need to explain that to anyone. If you're on the internet, especially on beauty internet, you have grown incredibly exhausted of this. It's been probably the last 2 or 3 years that TikTok has decided that they need to put a brand to everything. And this isn't just makeup. This is very much a Gen Z thing where they need to put a title to every movement, every era, every aesthetic, every aesthetic, as they say. I'm never going to stop being annoyed by that. As a millennial, I reserve the right. But I will say, same as I said in the last video I did about all these things, it was my tepid takes about makeup that isn't coming out. I talked about how like I actually liked trends because a trend by definition is an observation of a lot of people doing the same thing, not a top-down like Hailey Bieber saying this is what's going to happen and then everyone doing it. It's sort of a thing that emerges from a society as a response, usually to the political, socio-political, whatever ecosystem. And in the past, those sorts of things have lasted very long amounts of time, even if they have evolved, you know, into the next thing. It's not like at a decade, they were like, turn the page, you know, from the 50s to the 60s kind of thing. But large events and people's how much money is in their pocket or how oppressed they felt by the government or whatever, rebelling against things like this seesaw of like power, empowerment and disempowerment has driven really cool, groundbreaking trends over the decades that place us in time. We look at them and they are so relevant to their time period because they're a response to their time period. This exhaustion is the response to our time period. Even though we're looking at these micro trends, I think that micro trends by definition are not actually trends. They are top-down trends. They are like designed to be trends to begin with instead of something sort of emerging as a trend as a response. But you could argue that the trend of micro trends is a response to needing to feel constantly stimulated. Like that is the current era that a lot of the youths are in on the internet. And for better or worse, they've been influenced to feel that way by TikTok because TikTok is, and most of the internet is, both feeding you things that you are like supposedly going to enjoy seeing. Like they're going to try and like show you things that you think that you will like, and therefore we live in these very curated echo chambers, but also they're showing them to you really fast. And so we are used to having like this constant stimulation, whether it be good or bad. It's just coming at you rapid fire to the point that it's almost like in order to like nail something down, you know, Gen Z was like, just encapsulate, just contain this and call it something. So it's like, I empathize with that a little bit. So I think that they probably want it to stop too. Because they're like, I can't keep up, but also we understand that like there is no such thing as trend without emergence in that sense, and that like micro trends are a trend in and of themselves. Sorry if that's a little bit existential, but I do hear you on that, and I think that the collective exhaustion around it is going to cause a pivot back towards whatever the equivalent of slow living is as it pertains to consumption. And I really think that like underconsumption core was before its time. Like it was trying to be something and seize on something that like people weren't ready for yet, because what they did is they just made it a micro trend. Like they're like, how can we monetize this? It's like, stop it. So it's like you actually can't force those things. You sort of still have to like live within your paradigm. And now we are seeing true emergence happening where I understand that y'all are actually like the other way around. So I have to do this to show you like the left to right Hebrew and everything else. Japanese. Regardless, emergence has to exist as an observational trend, and that is why we are gradually as a society moving towards probably a slower pace of consumption and absorption and use and talking about things and everything out of respect for each other's attention spans, because I think everybody's gripping each other by the shoulders and going, make it stop, you know, and realizing that everyone wants to make it stop, and the only people who aren't letting it stop are the people who hold all of the money and all of the cards. And so it's like, we can make it stop for us, you know, and it will emerge because we are all fed up. Somebody said limited release / purchase pressure. I'm tired. I totally understand this. I participated in this unknowingly. When I did my releases with Finding Ferdinand had a different idea of the amount of time something should exist than I did. I really was like, oh, we're gonna be able to restock these things. And their idea was, no, we'll just do another collection in the future. Like, there should be a motivation to buy, because if people didn't buy on launch day, the things just didn't really sell because we weren't putting any like advertising dollars behind it. And so it just was like this mismatch of machinery. Like, making the products, absolutely seamless, but the marketing and the production and like the guessing of like how much we needed to make was so far off, and it was both of our first times making products in that capacity, like doing a collab between a brand and me being, you know, a creator. And so it was just misaligned. And so I totally understand that frustration. If I ever do a release again, I'm going to talk to the brand and make sure that it is something that is restockable, because it's really important to me that people don't feel like they have to spend their money today. And that was very unintentional on my part. Like, it was like so much of it is out of my hands, but at the same time, I'm not going to get on the internet while I'm releasing a product that I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to make and like drag the company, because we had different ideas of what was going to happen and we kind of didn't know what we didn't know yet. So either way, I'm very grateful to y'all for kind of being patient through that process. It was really uncomfortable. I do think that at this point, most makeup exists. You know, I will say, my bedroom eyes brow palette does not exist yet. And by God, I'm going to make it. But there are other ways to support your favorite creators, and understand that, at least from the standpoint of very large brands that are doing this, that like aren't associated with a creator or anything like that, when they do limited releases, they are doing it intentionally. They are creating a scarcity mindset, and you have a choice whether to engage with that or not. And at the end of the day, it's just makeup. I did watch this like older video. It's like from early 2023, I think, from Madison Brown, where she was talking about like 2014, 2016, like the, you know, the drag adjacent makeup styles that we were all doing on YouTube. And she was talking about how at the time it wasn't really about like what you did, it was about what you had. And there was this clamoring towards overconsumption, and by overconsumption it just meant like overbuying. We weren't even consuming what we were buying in most cases, and we weren't really understanding what we were buying in the first place, and it kind of gave us all a different set of traumas that came out of that. It's like, okay, well, should I go on a no buy in order to just like understand my spending habits, or am I left with a need for that kind of like dopamine hit of buying something new, but like I don't know how to like decide what's worth it and what's not, kind of thing. Or like, and then there's the parasocial relationships with the people that you watch online. And also I think that the influencer space has changed so much. Like, so many of us are, I mean, we're smaller overall. There are very few of us who have like over 1 million subscribers, and it just makes us more accessible. Like, I answer all of my comments, you know? And so if you're tired, then let it go. You know what I mean? You don't have to engage with that kind of thing. And if you see a creator be like, finally, I can finally talk about this, and they're putting out a video where they're revealing their new product, you don't have to watch it. Just, if like you feel like that's a lot of pressure for you, then just don't watch the video. They will get their money. So someone just said TikTok all of it, and then another person said dystopian-like overconsumption and that morning shed thing. Other people have said overconsumption. Overconsumption of items meant to reduce consumption. Like I said, it was like underconsumption was before its time, and so it kind of shoehorned itself into the monetization, fast-paced micro trend of it all. And we are now, I think, sort of moving at the proper pace towards actual less consumption, because we are all tired. At least I hope so. I'm very optimistic. The morning shed. So I have a viewpoint on this. We talked about it a little bit recently, but I will touch on it again. I personally got exhausted of the entire idea of TikTok a long time ago because I do find the rapid fire nature of something playing without me telling it to be an absolute waste case for my brain. Like for my attention span and my ADHD, I was like, I feel this rotting what attention span I do have. There was never any temptation to be like addicted to it. It was like smoking a cigarette. I was like, that tastes bad. And I wake up feeling worse. I just deleted TikTok. The only time I would watch TikTok would be if I saw another creator talking about a trend of like people in the beauty space doing X. I would like download TikTok and go and like try and find examples of it and see for myself like what was happening. And I mean, God, throw a rock in the TikTok beauty space and you're going to find something completely unhinged for attention. And the fact that anyone consuming content on TikTok, whatever their age is, has to always try to discern for themselves whether they're watching rage bait, satire, clickbait, an undisclosed ad. Come to YouTube. We don't lie about these things. This is very much a community of mutual accountability. At least we try to be, because we have been given such a bad name for so long in terms of being, you know, willing to shill anything. Doesn't matter the quality of it, like lie for money sort of thing, that we've worked so hard in this like second, third wave of like beauty creatorship in order to build like strong, trusting communication and relationships with our viewers, that TikTok doing what TikTok is doing and Michaela doing what Michaela is doing and all the other Michaelas over on TikTok, it is really frustrating because it does give influencers a bad name, and anybody who comes over to YouTube is gonna be like, well, it's a sponsorship, and it's like, God, are we doing this again? But young people get on TikTok and they don't know, because they don't know what they don't know. And so I hope that there is more of a movement back towards YouTube, because I think long form content is so much more sincere. You can show people what you're doing. We don't have the ability when we upload to like opt into a filter. I think that that really discourages people from using them in the first place. Some cameras have them, like beauty filters. I don't have that on my camera. I've never used anything like that. I mean, y'all can tell, you know, I'm in 4K, you can see my pores. I do believe in the good intentions of most people making beauty content on YouTube. And I'm sorry, I do not believe in good intentions of people on TikTok, because they are motivated by something other than authenticity, okay? They're motivated by views, and they're motivated by shock factor, and that just doesn't reach me. But at the same time, like, it is a cycle of you're gonna keep making content that is unuseful in any other way if all you're trying to do is shock people. I'm tired of being shocked. Listen, y'all love to hate the big eyelashes. This comes up every year when I do this. I have seen some people pull off really thick eyelash extensions and it look okay. I think that eyelash extensions are really expensive. And so when people do want that look and they don't have the money to go and spend like hundreds every couple of weeks to get their eyelashes filled, they'll go for a cheaper option, and God bless them. You know what I mean? Do what you gotta do. It's not my taste personally, but boy, it really seems to bug some of y'all. Someone said laminated brows. I have a question for you. I have a question. Is this laminated? Did I laminate my brows today? Because like, I love this. I love the way that this looks. I don't know. It doesn't bother me. I understand that it is very much like a brow blindness thing where we're all afraid that like 4 years from now, people are gonna look back and be like, look at y'all gluing your brows to your foreheads, you know? And that's very probably likely, you know, that's a realistic fear, but at the same time, we can't live in fear of our future selves judging us. Otherwise, we'd never do anything. Okay, this one was good. This is like the only person I think who said this, and I really appreciate it. It says, very tired of endless Gourmand fragrance releases. And I had to like Google what counts as Gourmand, because I've just always understood it to mean food. Gourmand perfumes, this is via Lord in Heaven, you know, AI overview on Google. So it's like, eat rocks. And also, here's what a gourmand is. Fragrances that are inspired by edible ingredients such as vanilla, chocolate, caramel, cotton candy, honey, almonds, coffee, licorice, and whipped sugar. The term gourmand comes from the French word for greedy or gluttonous. Gourmand perfumes became popular in the late 20th century, the 1900s. They are often blended with non-edible notes like musk or patchouli to balance out the sweetness and add complexity. So I feel like that's such a huge category. I consider offensive gourmands offensive to me. I understand that they're like, they exist for a reason. The things that I don't want to smell like and that actually just give me a headache to smell are like the artificial, like creamy smells. It's like the smell of the taste of a buttered popcorn Jelly Belly jelly bean. And like, that's some people's gig. It's the same way that I'm like, I don't like pina coladas because they taste like sunscreen, and people are like, yeah, it's awesome. You know, we all have our preferences. And so I do love vanilla. I've been a vanilla girl my entire life. I love the smell. I love the taste. Vanilla is my favorite thing. My kid calls it Grella. There can be vanilla smells that are combined with that fake creamy smell that I will kick out of bed. I really just, it's visceral. I think that most smells to people are. It's not like a decision, like, do I like that? You know, it's just like, get it out of my senses kind of thing. And if you are someone who those kinds of things bug, you're probably pretty over it right now. Yeah, like you're like, okay, so the only things that I can really shop for right now are like wildly expensive because they're at like Le Labo or Byredo or something, because like all of the brands that are being sold, you know, in the price point of like affordable are doing things like vanilla skin or caramel whipped whatever, like Fleur is doing, or cherry. And I understand that like cherry is considered like, that's a, I don't know, fruit. That's the thing. Gourmand, I guess it's considered to be like these rich smells that are not derived from like a fruit or a vegetable or like a peppercorn or like a flower. Someone is going to get in the comments and leave me a novel, and I'm not going to read it. I am so sorry, I don't have the attention span, but go off. Go off. I'm going to continue with my understanding of it, and I'm going to say that like, I totally feel you. Like you could be very annoyed by those things right now. Like I don't do fall candles. Ick. There's not a fall. I will do cinnamon. Cinnamon is spicy on the nose, but like if it goes into pumpkin, if it goes into whipped cream, pumpkin pie, cheesecake, like the apple ones, like ugh. I cannot. Like that, there's no romance in that to me. There is no nostalgia in that to me. It just makes me want to throw up. But that's personal. So it's like we were talking about in my last video. There are people who want to wear a matte foundation all the time. And so when matte foundations come into style, they end up with more options. And then the cycles will turn back towards dewy makeup, and people like me are like, yay, I have so many options. And I do understand that the trends have fallen away from like spicy, peppery, floral things in the last year or so. So I totally understand where you're coming from. It would be nice to see something different in 2025. Even though I'm a big fan of vanilla scents and I love the things that Fleur is doing, for example, I do think that we could do something new next year. My lovely friend Natalie, who does not like when I mention her without quoting her. When I say like my friend, she's like, your friend? Your friend who? Natalie, my lovely angel human of a best friend. So she said, trying to make smoking cool. This is one of my, again, like parent age pet peeves, because it's the same as talking about like heroin chic, where you're just like, stop it. Stop making self-destruction cool. It's not cool. You're going to get to an age where you're like, I want to spend thousands of dollars on skincare. Wow, I really wish I hadn't smoked cigarettes. Like, stop it. So yeah, I mean, aside from the whole like the lack of appeal for most people that smokers do have to push past, which is like, you are literally paying to dirty the air that you're breathing. Like what? Like, I would like to pay that the air that goes in my mouth and back out of my mouth is instead smoke. So it's air, but it's worse. That is a weird thing to pay for, but also it makes you smell bad, and also it ages you, and also, but the good news is the moment you smoke your last cigarette and you're done, your body automatically starts healing. There's like all of these statistics on the internet that are just like, it takes X amount of time for your lungs to just like totally come back to normal and stuff. My mother smoked for a very long time in her life, and you know what? That is her one regret. You know, she reached like age 50 and she stopped smoking, and she was like, that is the biggest regret that that is the only regret that I have in my life. I understand that things are learning experiences. I regret ever starting smoking. And it's like, that's huge. You know what I mean? You should listen to people who have been through it. And so when I go to New York City, and this has only happened in the last like year or so, I'll go to events sometimes and there'll be bowls of cigarettes. And I understand that it's like this chic thing to do, to have loosies, as I guess they call them, like, you know, the singles of cigarettes just sitting there. And it's very reminiscent to me, if you recall the lore, which we all do, of Mary-Kate Olsen's wedding to Olivier Sarkozy, where there were bowls of cigarettes on the tables of every table at the reception. And everybody was like, ew, you know what I mean, at the time, because I feel like it had really fallen out of vogue at that point. But like, the Olsen twins have just been little stovepipes since they were like 9 years old. And so like, they're like, who cares if it's in style? I only breathe smoke. And so that was something that really made it to the airwaves, is this like ironic thing, this like, whoa, shock value thing. And so I do feel like now that we're seeing like the resurgence of indie sleaze, we're seeing the resurgence of like a response to decadence and things like that. Like, we are also bringing back all of these kind of like, fatalistic is the word, nihilistic habits. It's kind of like, who cares about tomorrow, live for today. That was very much the like, wasty face, look like crap, dance your face off, the Kesha of it all. That really represented like the mid 2000s through to like the early 2010s. That, you know, indie sleaze era, which was, by God, an era. And you know what? You have every right at that age, or whatever age, to like put your stake in the ground and be like, this is my style, because I sure did. And it was awesome, and I'm glad that I did it, because like, you're a representative, you're like this, you belong to something that's like bigger than you, and it feels really cool, and like you have all this nostalgia and everything, and I have so much nostalgia for it, and I know so many cool people as a result of it. But when we bring things back, I do, from this like very almost like naive adulthood kind of way, like I'm looking at it from such a bird's eye view at this point that I'm just kind of like, couldn't we do it without that part? You know what I mean? It's like how we removed smoking from airplanes. It's like, could we just do this thing, but without that thing? Like, do we need that? Apparently so. And it is something that someone should probably, and probably already has, do a thesis on. Like, I guess it's kind of what I already said. It's like you step into this moment where everybody's so fed up that they're just like, I don't even know what to do anymore, nothing matters, eat Takis, that you also step into all of the other kind of nihilistic mindsets, because it's actually kind of soothing for you. And there is also the sense of belonging. Like, I remember my old roommate, Chris, he was in a touring band called This Will Destroy You, and they all smoked. And I was like, why are you smoking? And he's like, it's weird. We're like traveling the world all the time. And there's something about how you feel so displaced, and then you'll stand there and you'll smoke a cigarette and it brings you back to home in some way. Like, it's like, oh, okay, this is something that's a constant when everything else is changing. And I'm like, huh, okay, you know, okay. Like, all right, but like, I also am not going to start for any reason. So it's all personal, but I really wish that we would stop advertising it to children. If my kid starts smoking, I'm going to wring his neck. And if I see him sucking on a vape, his life is over as he knows it. Okay, someone said perfectly clean and curated lives. Singular, rigid aesthetics. We want real, human inconsistency. Yes! Imperfection, authenticity. You know, one thing I will say, and that is kind of speaking about how this job takes a while to be fun, because you have to figure out how to be yourself on camera again. Everybody's like, just be yourself. There is this Trin Min Ha, I've talked about it a million times, like, you know, there's no such thing as a documentary essay that's definitely worth reading. And it's like, as soon as there's a camera pointed at anything, it all of a sudden is not just, it's being observed. It's being altered by the fact that there is someone observing it. And so that's the whole, like, you know, point a camera at me. I'm like, what do I do with my hands? How do I human? And it takes you a long time to figure out how to human again. And I think that that is a lot of why people get on camera and have a persona. And that's almost easier for them to maintain than I mean, it's not even easier. It's not like they're choosing not to be themselves. It's like, it's a means to an end as over the years they begin to relax in front of the camera. And so it's not everybody's fault. I do think that there are obviously a lot of creators, not really beauty creators, but other kinds of creators that come on and they have no morals, and they will come out and say that. They're like, I'm just here for the money, and then I will slip into obscurity and move to Mexico. You know, I do appreciate that very much, like we were talking about with, like, you know, Sam Ravindell being the kind of person who made it easier for someone like me or Alexandra Anele to just get on camera and talk and be like, hey, this is what's going on in my life. I can be real. I don't have to be sunshine roses all the time or curate my life in a certain way. It hasn't always felt that way, that it was safe for us to do that, but it's also hard for some people to open up. I mean, this is a big context collapse, kind of like risky situation you're putting yourself in, where you open yourself up to criticism. I have seen plenty of creators, people who were friends of mine, have to take a very serious look at what their relationship was to this job because they could not put a healthy boundary between criticism and their sense of self-worth. And I think that over the years, I have done honestly, I've done like a pretty darn good job of curating an incredible comment section, an incredible community of people. And it's not just people being positive all the time, it's people being sincere and talking to each other in a sincere and respectful manner. And I think curating comments has a lot to do with that. This is not a democracy. I am not sitting here being like, yes, you have the right to slander me in my comments because free speech. Not because it's gonna hurt my feelings, but because I don't want other people who are new or who have something cool to say to read my comments and go, oh, this is a dumpster fire. I'm not even gonna, you know what I mean? You are kind of creating like a microbiome essentially down there. And it's like, I just kind of want all the good bacteria. I just called y'all good bacteria. I'm really sorry about that. And for people who have not been as lucky as I have, or blew up faster than I did and didn't get kind of a chance to build that relationship over time, it can be really hard sometimes to put yourself, your true self out there and talk about the things that are going on with you, talk about your imperfections, or even just relax on camera. I do feel like I am exactly the same on camera as I am in real life. And for some people that doesn't feel safe. I also have a personality, I feel like, that I would be running my mouth whether there was a camera on me or not. So that's also a personality trait that not everyone has. And I also feel like there's been a positive response to me over time cracking the door and then opening myself up, and it couldn't have happened all at once. So when you see people who are really, really curated online, understand what you're looking at. I think that that's a very important thing to do and to tell other people, especially like in comment sections and stuff. It's like, hey, be aware if you're really young, this is what this is, don't be fooled. But also have a little bit of sympathy, a little bit of just understanding of like starting out in this job. You can try and be yourself and it doesn't work right away. You're on camera and you're like, I definitely felt like I was myself. And then you watch it back and you're like, who was that? What was I talking about? Who did I think that I was? You know, it's just a matter of like literally getting to know yourself on camera in order to be able to relax, in order to be able to feel comfortable being vulnerable. So there's two sides to it, but I hear you. And I am all in on sincerity as much as we can get. All right, this is the one I'm gonna end with. The trend of eyeshadow palettes going out of style. I just started getting into them 3 years ago. All right, so I was in a group of people talking in London, and Alexis from the Lipstick Lesbians was like, don't y'all worry, because she knows everything, don't y'all worry, eyeshadow's coming back next year. Because God, you know, the trend spotters, they were just like, lips, glossy, balmy lips, you know, all year. And we were like people were just like, pH color adjusting, and people were like, sure. And then like all the consumers were like, why? You know? And like people are sick of lip plumpers. We're just sick of people telling us that it's a new lip product, and we're like, no, it's not. Like there was a point at which Rebecca told me that someone was releasing like a tinted lip balm, and I like gripped my desk. I was like, I cannot buy another tinted lip balm. I can't do it. I literally have like 1,000 between the ones that I have bought out of curiosity and been sent. So it's like, no more. And eyeshadows, we really have gone back to like singles and maybe questioning like how we want to achieve something without pulling out an eyeshadow palette and things like that. But these things are cyclical, and I do look forward to a new era and a new take on eyeshadow. It might not be an eyeshadow palette, but if it is, I'm excited to see that. I think indie brands have been doing eyeshadows the whole time. Like Marshawn Lynch, I was here the whole time. They just didn't really care whether the trend was going in or out. They're just like, bright colors, balance, 800 shades, go for it, girl. Yeah, I'm interested to see what we get. Because if the trend spotters said that that is what is coming, then that is also what they're telling all of the brands, and then all the brands are scrambling like little eggs trying to figure out what to sell to us next. And we need to always keep in mind that it is the industry that is designed to work for us and not the other way around. So I welcome it. And I hope that y'all thought this was fun. I, again, love year-end roundups. This is one of my favorite videos to make. Honestly, we should make them more often, but at the same time, I feel like a year is a really good time period to do a retrospective on. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this. If you did, please do give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out Ana Luisa using the link below. And thank you to Ana Luisa for sponsoring a portion of today's video yet again. Subscribe while you're here if you have not already. I will put a video up here that I think you'll enjoy if you liked this one. Look forward to more year-end roundups coming soon. We'll probably have a few other things happening as well to kind of break it up, but we'll see. And gosh, the end of the year is coming up so quickly, isn't it? I hope y'all have a lovely holiday season, and I love you very much, and I will see you in the next one.